had the swagger of a hip-hop rapper, but the vocal prowess of an R&B balladeer. Montell Jordan burst onto the entertainment scene in the mid-90s and immediately rose to the top of the charts, while also using his attention-grabbing height and good looks to create the image of a single and ready-to-mingle Hollywood heartthrob. He wasn't single though, he was very married, and before long that false public image would lead to causing his wife immense pain and put their relationship in jeopardy. Creative differences with his label, money issues, and the realization that his choices weren't serving him well forced Montell to re-examine everything and ultimately decide to take his life in a more meaningful and spiritual direction. Montell was born in South Central Los Angeles, the oldest of 4 children, on December 3, 1968. The neighborhood he grew up in was very rough, and gang violence was a part of everyday life. Drive-by shootings were also prevalent. So much so that Montell's family opted to sit on the floor in their home while watching TV as a way to protect themselves from any stray bullets. There was never any worry of Montell getting caught up in that lifestyle though, as he told blackdoctor.org in 2020. "I was more fearful of my dad than I was the Crips and Bloods. If we even thought about gangbanging or being around that, he would take us out first." His mother, a bank teller, and father, who worked at a paper factory, were also quite religious. It was important for them to rear their children in the faith as well, so Montell and his siblings attended a local church multiple times per week growing up. His parents also took on roles as deacons there, while Montell would play piano for the choir. His defining moment when he knew he truly had been blessed with the gift of singing would happen in his final year of high school. During a talent show, he sat down at a piano and blew everyone away with his rendition of the Commodores' 1980 song, "Jesus is Love." After graduating in the mid-80s, Montell attended Pepperdine University in Malibu, California, where he earned a bachelor's degree in organizational communications with a minor in business in preparation for law school. Those plans quickly changed, though, following a conversation he had with one of the school's law professors, who also happened to be a close friend. As it turned out, the professor himself had his own aspirations to pursue a career in music once upon a time. So he was very candid with Montell in telling him that if he really wanted to do music, he should do it now, since law school would always be there, whereas the opportunity to get his foot in the door of the entertainment industry, not so much. One night at a party, Montell met the woman who would later become his wife, Kristen Hudson. After they began dating, she used her academic background to help Montell on his journey to breaking into the music industry as his manager. One showcase in particular where he performed completely brought the house down. The crowd threw so much money at his feet that he was able to pocket more in 20 minutes than what would have taken him a couple of days to make at his regular 9-to-5. Montell was all in now. He was more determined than ever to make his dreams of singing stardom come true. While shopping his demo tape around, Montell eventually caught the attention of Def Jam Records founder Russell Simmons. He was so impressed with what he heard that he asked Montell to fly out to New York ASAP so he could sign him to his R&B division, Def Soul. Before he got into the studio to begin work on his debut album though, Montell needed to do something else first: marry Kristen. In his unsung episode, Montell stated that he'd always heard that in the music business, if you didn't get married before your career popped off, you likely never would. So, in 1994, he and Kristen held a ceremony officiated by the bride's grandfather in LA. Montell's first single, called "This Is How We Do It," which sampled Slick Rick's hit Children's Story, dropped in February 1995. The hit shot all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and R&B charts. The secret to Montell's success was obvious and something he'd lean on for years to come: his ability to skillfully blend R&B with hip-hop. I've been into rap ever since I was 11 or 12, but I never wanted to be a rapper. My heart has always been in traditional R&B, so I wanted to sing. I grew up listening to my parents' records, people like the Spinners, Isaac Hayes, and Teddy Pendergrass. I wrote rap lyrics, and instead of rapping, I sang the lyrics. It's a different slant on R&B. His debut album of the same name was released 2 months later. Montell was now a bona fide superstar, and his label thought it was a good idea to begin marketing him in a very particular way. Even though they knew he was married, they suggested he present himself to his fans as a single man, believing the status would help him sell more records. In his Unsung episode, Montell admitted that they came up with a prepared answer he would give in interviews if asked about his personal life, which was to say he was married to his music.
Lies, lies, and more lies, and lies on top of lies.
Montell's follow-up single, Something for the Honeys, dropped in the summer of 1995, becoming a top 20 R&B hit and just missing the top 20 on the pop charts by settling at number 21. A number of familiar faces not only showed up on the set of the music video, which took place on a golf course, but they also brought with them some major drama. An all-out brawl with BG Knockout and his brother Dresta on one side and Nate Dogg and the Dog Pound crew on the other ensued after some words were exchanged between BG and Nate. They even made use of the tools available to them, by BG getting his foot run over by Nate driving a golf cart and Dresta getting hit in the head with a golf club. The whole thing was also caught on tape. The very next year, Montell released his second album, More. The aptly titled project did in fact give the fans more. More hits in the form of all three of the project's singles, I Like, Falling, and What's On Tonight. Once again though, more video shoot drama followed. For the second single, Falling, the concept required Montell to have a very close and cozy interaction with his love interest played by actress Sally Richardson. Long before that moment, Montell and his wife had already had a discussion about him not doing any kissing or love scenes. If you've seen the video for the song though, you know that promise was clearly broken. Kristen, who had just given birth to their first child a couple of weeks prior and was battling postpartum depression, was also on the set. She wasn't happy about Montell's actions at all, and the ugly scene she made about it let everyone know exactly how she felt. Montell may have only been playing make-believe on the set of his music video, but soon the temptation to engage in intimate ways with numerous people of the opposite sex became very real. His personal life experiences also began to be reflected in his work. His third album, Let's Ride, was released in March 1998. The lyrics of the lead single and title track left nothing to the imagination, and clearly communicated what kind of offstage activities Montell was involved in. The song also became his biggest hit since This Is How We Do It, going to number 2 on the Hot 100 and taking the top spot on the R&B chart. By now, it was clear to fans that the hip-hop element in Montell's music wasn't going anywhere. His hip-hop-focused record label was more than okay with that, but Montell wasn't. He wanted to be a true balladeer. So, along with his childhood friend, songwriter, and producer, Anthony Shep Crawford, he started his own writing and production company. To start, they began creating works for other artists, including Christina Milian, 98 Degrees, and Lil Mo. They also penned the smash hits Nobody's Supposed to Be Here by Deborah Cox and Incomplete by Cisco. Get It On Tonight, Montell's fourth effort, debuted on the scene in November 1999. Just like Let's Ride, this album, courtesy of its title track, spoke to similar extracurricular activities Montell was engaging in, unbeknownst to his wife. Everything was on a downward spiral in Montell's life. His drinking and womanizing were out of control. According to Kristen, she was in denial about what her husband was involved in and chose to just keep herself busy. That is, until a family friend threatened to tell Montell's wife what was going on if he didn't. Montell decided he should be the one to reveal everything, and that he did.
When I told her, she left the house because her initial thought was, I got to get out of here so I don't kill him.
I literally end up laying at the altar and just really crying out to the Lord and asking him, what is it that you want me to do? And he, as clear as I'm talking to you, says, stay. You and your daughter's life depend on it. And I was like, ugh.
I had to share with her everything that I had ever done, every instance I'd ever had, every woman I had in a bathroom stall, every woman I had ever done anything with, looked at, lusted after, tour bus, anything that I could think of. I told my wife everything.
I just had to come to the conclusion that I had to trust the God in him as opposed to him and say, you know what? I have to believe that God knows more than me.
She absorbed years of infidelity from me and took that all upon herself as my wife.
We put in rules in place of like, if he's gonna be gone for more than 3 days, I go with him. We had to really make choices that said, okay, we're going to choose this. Like, we can never discuss divorce.
The next time Montell got back into the studio, he decided that he was going to approach his next project much differently than the ones that came before. But even though he was tired of his label dictating his every move, maybe they knew what they were doing. The subject matter on Montell's 2002 self-titled album that may have been more to his liking didn't fare well on the charts. To add insult to injury, the label decided to release it overseas and not in the US. It was clearly time for him and Def Soul to part ways. Montell moved on quickly and released his next album, Life After Death, the following year under Koch Records. It did even worse than his self-titled album. Then some major money issues popped up when the taxman came to collect what Montell apparently had failed to pay them for years. The initial amount was quite small, but over time, the interest that accrued rose to the total of $1.7 million. Unfortunately, he decided that the best way out of the situation was to sell off his entire catalog, along with filing for bankruptcy. Montell dusted himself off and got right back to work, booking locations for live performances to pay the bills. There was one problem though. People weren't feeling him the way they once were, and it showed in the numbers. The reality hit him like a ton of bricks when he walked out on stage at one particular venue that seated 3,500 and saw only 7 people in the crowd. After that abysmal experience, Montell released his 7th album, 2008's Let It Rain, on Fontana Records. A couple of years later, as he was getting ready to create another musical project, Montell felt a spiritual calling to completely switch gears in his professional as well as his personal life. During a religious fast at the Victory World Church in Atlanta, he claims he was told by God to quit the music industry. He decided to heed the Lord's word and walk away from music altogether. He dedicated his life to his faith, became a born-again Christian, as well as an ordained minister and executive pastor at that same church. Montell and his wife also provided both premarital and marriage counseling for couples. To continue to tap into his love of music, Montell created a collective there called Victory World Music. In early 2011, they released a Christian album. The Jordans co-authored their first book together in 2017 titled This Is How We Do It, Making Your Marriage a Masterpiece. It followed Montell's first book ever, Becoming Unfamous, The Journey from How We Do It to How He Do It, which dropped just 7 months prior. 2019 marked Montell's return to music with his first solo studio album in over a decade. Masterpiece is a 10-song project full of positive and inspirational tracks. He then dove into the reality TV arena by competing on Season 8 of The Masked Singer as Panther in 2022, as well as Special Forces World's Toughest Test in the beginning of 2023, where he was sadly eliminated in only the 2nd episode due to a medical issue. Today, Montell and his wife Kristen continue to reside in Atlanta, and their faith is stronger than ever. Near the end of 2022, they began streaming virtual church sermons on Sundays through their Masterpiece Church website and social media.